Welcome to the Financial Technology Report, a leading information source on financial technology companies and solutions. In this episode, we speak with Gene Farrell, President and CEO of Vanilla, a wealth management technology company simplifying how advisors deliver estate planning at scale. Founded in 2019, Vanilla's platform helps financial advisors, planners, and attorneys create personalized estate strategies through automation and data integration. The company's software has processed tens of thousands of planning documents and is used by leading wealth management firms, including Mariner Wealth Advisors and Vanguard. Gene joined Vanilla in 2021 after executive roles at Smartsheet, Amazon Web Services, and the Coca-Cola Company. Drawing on his background in building high-growth technology businesses, he now leads Vanilla's mission to make estate planning more efficient, accessible, and impactful for advisors and their clients. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow. Gene, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a delight to be with you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you work in a particular niche, I'd say, within the financial advisor space, wealth management space. To kick off, maybe tell us specifically what Vanilla does in this area.
For sure. So Vanilla is a platform for financial advisors and attorneys to help their clients build and manage their estate plans. And estate planning is probably one of the last areas of financial services to really be modernized, because it's this blend of financial advice and legal advice and probably lightly understood and very complicated set of laws that vary by state. And certainly there's tax laws around it as well. And so I think people just feel like it's really hard and it's really confusing. And so they tend to not engage, even though it's probably one of the most important things that they need to do as well to ensure that their assets are protected and their family's protected if something happens to them.
It's unique in that it's a point solution that, we've seen quite a few of these software solutions or interfaces that kind of unify all the reporting that needs to be done, and a financial advisor has to report to their client. And this has a specific use case, but yet it's becoming prevalent and people are adopting it. What are the complications in estate and trust and tax issues that make your particular solution highly relevant and desired?
I would say it kind of goes back to what I mentioned a minute ago, in that estate planning is not particularly well understood. And historically, advisors have advertised that they offer estate planning, but that really just translates into they know an estate attorney that they would refer their client to. And in my experience, my personal experience, and in talking to many others who have gone through the process, attorneys play a very important role, but they're actually not the best position to provide advice, because attorneys in general want to implement a plan based on what you want to do. They're not there to tell you, here's what you should do, or here's what we recommend. And so, in fact, the data really supports this. That the majority of advised clients, in fact, over 93% of advised clients, want their financial advisor to help them navigate that process and really be that sounding board, that kind of life coach, if you will, that helps them figure out how to make sure they're protecting their family. Yet only 24% of clients are getting that service from their advisors today. So there's this massive gap. And I think the last data I saw said that something like 70% of Americans have done no estate planning or do not have a current estate plan in place. Yet the vast majority believe that it's important and they need to have one, but they don't know how to get started, or they don't feel like they have trusted advisors to help them. And so what Vanilla is really designed to do is to address that need by empowering the advisor with the tools and the knowledge to meet their clients wherever they are in that estate planning journey, regardless of their wealth level. So it could be maybe a young family that is early in their wealth building journey. They don't have a ton of assets, but the advisor could engage with them, help them understand what's important for them to think about, which at that phase, it's really about protection, right? If for some reason something happened to one of the partners and the family lost their income source, do they have sufficient life insurance to be able to not cause real stress on the family? And then do they have their documents in place to ensure that they're protected from things like probate?
Hmm.
It can be really fundamental. Where at the other end of the spectrum, for maybe a more established family or someone that's had, a lot of success in their life and has a very high net worth estate, beyond just protection and the legal strategies, there are considerations around generational wealth transfer. How do I optimize for state and federal level taxes? So actually quite complicated and requires a lot of analysis and really collaboration between the advisor, the client, and their attorney.
Hmm. Last I read, there's like hundreds of thousands of financial advisors out there. Do you focus on a particular segment? I mean, you've referenced that the end client is all wealth levels, but I'm wondering how you segment when you go to market. Who are you most focused on in terms of the financial advisor?
Great question. I would say that's actually evolved over time. So Vanilla was actually founded in 2019 by Steve Lockshin. Steve is kind of a legend in the wealth advisory space. He's been recognized as Barron's as one of the top advisors in the US. He has built and sold multiple RIA firms, and really early in his career centered in on this idea of focusing more on the planning side versus the investing side. So he typically will recommend passive, well-diversified investment strategies for his clients and spends most of his energy on the planning side. And he still actively manages clients today. I think average net worth is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think probably 40% are billionaires, his current client base. And so the initial product we built was really targeted and designed for ultra high net worth. And that's what we launched almost 3 years ago. And we started with some large, kind of high net worth, both large firms and some boutique advisory firms focusing on that ultra high segment. But our going in belief was always that advisors are going to serve a breadth of wealth levels, if you think about the market broadly, and that they're not going to want to have multiple solutions. They really are going to want to have one estate planning tool that they can really support them across all of their clients.
Hmm.
And so I've been with Dell now about 4 years. And when I joined, we were kind of pre-product, pre-revenue. Over the course of my 4 years, we started with that ultra high net worth product, and we still kind of have a North Star around making sure we always have the best solution for that ultra high net worth use case. But what we found is it's much easier to extend to lower wealth levels and a broader audience than it is to start in mass affluent and figure out how to do really complex ultra high net worth planning. And so we've extended now to high net worth and mass affluent, really all the way down to, a couple $100,000 of net worth. We can support really clients wherever they are in that wealth spectrum.
Now, was it an easy transition from Smartsheet to going to a, pre-product company? And then before that, you were at AWS. So it's kind of like you were going from very large corporate all the way down to early stage. How was that transition? Was it seamless? Did it almost make you even more skilled?
Well, it's funny. I joke sometimes with people. I'm kind of running my career in reverse. So my very first job was with the Coca-Cola Company, and I spent the first half of my career there in a bunch of different sales, marketing, general management roles. And then the last role I had there was I led an internal startup team that built the Coca-Cola Freestyle machine, which if you've ever been to a Five Guys or an AMC theaters, you've probably experienced that. And it was just breakthrough at the time for Coke. And that really made me realize my passion and my calling was building technology and building businesses. And so I left Coke in 2012 to join AWS. And if you remember, 2012 cloud was still super early. I mean, a lot of people didn't know Amazon had a cloud business. And so that was a really exciting time to be at Amazon. I spent 5 years there building some really, really cool cloud services, learned a ton about building software at scale, and really prepared me to be the chief product officer at Smartsheet, which I joined in 2017. And I ran all of product and strategy for about 4.5 years. From a growth perspective, when I joined, we were about 80 million in ARR and scaled that to over 600 million in 4.5 years. So, made multiple acquisitions along the way, but really advanced the product portfolio and the business. And so super amazing journey. I mean, I really enjoyed working with Mark Mader, the CEO, and all the other folks there. But I still had this itch to want to be a CEO. And so after 4.5 years, I was evaluating a number of different opportunities. And What you find when you look at CEO roles, it's typically, most companies, if things are going great, are not changing their CEO. Most of the time, opportunities are either going to be something's not going well and you need someone to come in and kind of fix it, or it's really early stage and you're trying to figure out what you're going to build and how to do it. And I had always, in my career, like both at Amazon and at Coke, I built things from scratch where it was really an idea and then you took it to commercialization. I always enjoyed that time. And so I thought, why not make my own mistakes and learn from them and have to fix those versus fixing somebody else's. So yeah, so I joined in December of 2021, pre-product, pre-revenue. But we had a fortunate situation because I had Steve and the practice that he had built for several decades. So he really knew the space really, really well, probably better than any product person I could go hire. And then the second thing we had was a couple of really large customers. One of them is also an investor, Vanguard, who partnered with us to develop that first ultra high net worth solution. And so that really gave us some great market signal and understanding of what the needs were, and really let us build from the mindset of how do we build to support some of the largest customers out of the gate, which is very different than most startups. I mean, most startups, you think about how can I build an MVP and land with a few small clients and figure out if there's a fit here and then work my way up. So we kind of did it a little bit in reverse. But to your question about the experience, I would say that I know I don't look this old, but I have 30 plus years of experience in business and technology and, led large teams, built products from the ground up. There's a saying we had at Amazon, there's no compression algorithm for experience. And there's so many life lessons and things I've learned over the course of my career in business that I apply almost daily at Vanilla. So it's been a lot of fun and it's invigorating working with a lot of really smart, driven people to build a product that we think can change, people's lives.
Uh-huh. On the people front, I'm always curious, like how you go about recruiting the best team and how do you keep them there? And then how do you cultivate a high performing culture?
Yeah, well, I would tell you, this is my first time doing this from scratch, not with the safety net of a large company. So it's very different. When I was at Coke or I was at Amazon, you could attract great talent that would work on something early stage, but they knew they had a career at whatever company that is. And so what I found in the startup space is your ability to recruit and attract talent kind of evolves as the company evolves, right? And particularly anymore, just because you have funding doesn't necessarily mean, something's going to work. And so I would say probably the biggest lesson I've learned in the 4 years is that there are some roles that likely can scale with you to a very large. And there are other roles where what you need when you have 20 people and no product is probably not the same skill set that you're going to need when you're 10 or 20 million in annual revenue. And so kind of adjusting your mindset and really being thoughtful about for certain roles, figuring out how do you leverage your networks, how do you leverage your experience. And I'd say I'm probably at an advantage being call it a mature leader who's, attracted a lot of talent. And over my career, I seem to have a knack for finding really great folks that want to work with me. And so for key roles, I've had pretty good success. But part of what I've had to do is learn that there may be somebody I hire in year one that by year three, they probably can't be the department lead anymore, or maybe they need to move on to their next thing and we need to up level a skill set. Mm-hmm. It's always a mix. What's exciting about where we are now is because we're seeing kind of consistent, really high growth is I'm finding I'm able to sometimes punch above my weight class. I recently hired a new CTO. My original CTO is a guy I worked with at Amazon, actually got recruited away by a large public company for a C-level job, and it was a great opportunity for him. But the new CTO that I brought in has a ton of experience, has worked at public companies, small companies, and he was really intrigued by the challenge and brings a skill set that's really going to help us take the business to the next level. So I think it's a good mix of having the experience, and because a lot of times really strong talent. In this particular case, I think he was working for a CEO that was maybe early 30s, first time they've ever run a company. It's hard when you're seasoned and really good to work for folks that don't necessarily have the experience to help you achieve your best outcomes.
One would think that if you're looking at selling into the financial advisor space, go for the big Merrill Lynch or JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Do those folks have in-house built solutions?
Well, some of the names that you mentioned there are customers of ours today.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
we have some really large customers. We have a whole bunch of called mid-tier customers, and then a bunch of independent advisors. So really a broad spectrum of clients. Today we're right around 600 total brands on our platform. So from, zero to that in under 3 years feels pretty good.
Uh-huh. Ultimately, what's the long-term vision here? Is it that you continue to expand within this niche of estate planning and that you eventually get acquired into a broader solution, or is it vice versa? You then go in and be the acquirer?
Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the funnest things about being in business, right? Is there's no kind of set pattern or no specific story here. You kind of get to navigate. And frankly, that's what energizes me. The things I think about when you approach an opportunity is I usually almost always start with what's the size of the market? How big of a company can you really build here? And estate planning industry in just the US is estimated around $200 billion a year. Now, a lot of that is attorneys, and there's a lot of different pieces to that, but that's a huge market.
Hmm.
I mean, just the advised space alone, we think is probably call it 8 to 10 billion range. And then the self-directed or just self-serve offered through like a partner like Vanguard's platform, we think is probably another 8 to 10. So estate planning for advised clients could be, close to 20 billion of total opportunity. So you can build a really big company with that kind of a market size. So that's just the US. So that said, we think we're still super early on just estate planning. And so we think that we've got, plenty of runway to continue to grow there. But we also see a bigger opportunity. And one of the things that's been pretty interesting is many of our customers tell us they love the modern approach that we've taken to planning. And our product is really designed to be very visually compelling and easy to use. And clients love the outputs that we deliver. And so we'll get a lot of suggestions from some of our customers who say, gosh, it'd be great if you would extend into things like tax planning or retirement planning or some of those other things. So I think that's certainly always a potential expansion and growth path. And then I think certainly international presents a ton of opportunity beyond the US. So I think there are multiple paths to build a meaningful sized company. Now, whether you get there all organically or you team up with different folks along the way, I mean, I think that's the story that we're going to go right here over the next few years.
You mentioned something about the product and it being visually appealing, and it made me think about the extent of your experience, starting at Coca-Cola and building kind of a concept from scratch. What do you think most people miss about product design that for you over the years and with all the things that you've been involved in, it's intuitive to you, like the product has to do this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. When I think about the best products, they have this ability to address both a functional and an emotional level of satisfaction. And I've had experience like when I first joined Smartsheet, and you could probably say the same thing about some of my early products at AWS. We had some incredibly functional products that were not particularly enjoyable to use from a visual appeal and kind of user delight. If I rewind the tape to Coca-Cola, with Coca-Cola Freestyle Machine, you had a product that had breakthrough capabilities. Nobody had ever even imagined having, 100 plus choices in one machine that they could just try all these different things and let them kind of reconnect with the experimentation of youth, if you will, right? You see kids today, they'll go up and they'll mix a soda between on a traditional soda machine and just go, wow, this is so amazing. I get to try all these things, right? And I think Freestyle enabled people to recapture that emotional connection to the Coca-Cola brand and did it in a really delightful, kind of surprising way.
Hmm.
And I think Coke's a very fun brand and a very fun product. I would submit that what we're doing at Vanilla is taking something that could be a very maybe dark, thinking about or planning one's own demise is usually not like the first thing people get excited to go do when they get up in the morning. But but that said, I think that when the product is elegant and feels professional and is visually compelling, I think that it somehow makes that a better experience for both the advisor and the client to kind of go through and have those hard conversations. And, we tell our advisors that, the estate planning conversation is probably one of the most intimate conversations you're going to have with a client, because you're talking about their family and who they love. You're talking about money and their relationship with money. And you're talking about legacy. What kind of an impact do they want to make with their life's work? And those can be heavy topics. And if the companion to that is this drab, uninspiring, either PDF report or visual software, I think it kind of sets the tone, right? And so I think that's one of the things that our customers tell us pretty consistently is they just love how professional and how crisp and how impactful the reports are and how much clients love them to be able to kind of simplify something that can be quite complex and really makes it feel approachable and lets them have those conversations.
Last two questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I've had a lot of people that have influenced me throughout my life, but I would have to say probably the person that has had the most profound influence on me is my wife. My wife and I met our freshman year of college, and she's been kind of my life partner and best friend for 37 odd years. And when I think back about my career, one of the most transformative decisions that I made was the decision to leave Coca-Cola after 20 years there. And for a lot of reasons, when I was growing up, my dad had a business that failed multiple times, and we'd experienced what bankruptcy looked like. And as a kid, that leaves an impression, right? And so I think early in my career, I was very risk averse because I was very focused on that security element of, I don't want to put my kids through that or my family through that. And when I was contemplating the decision to leave Coca-Cola, and I was talking to my wife about the risks that I was taking or my perceived risk, super smart lady, she says to me, I think you're thinking about this the wrong way. The real risk is if you don't do this, because you have so many people at Coca-Cola who've been there their entire life, and you reach a point where you don't have the option to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the risk. You need to go do this. And I don't think I fully appreciated how hard it is to be successful at Amazon when I jumped into that. But yeah, super, super smart. I think if you think about really impacting my life, there's been lots of leaders I've read about and things that inspire me, but her support and her advice in some of those critical moments, really shaped how our life turned out.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I would say probably the thing that I'm really passionate about, and a charity that we support pretty wholeheartedly, is the National Ability Center. It's based in Park City, Utah. We happen to have a vacation place there. And I was introduced to NAC, probably 5 years ago. And they focus their effort on helping people with physical and mental disabilities enjoy the outdoors, whether it's a disabled skier or a person with Down syndrome being able to go rock climb or mountain bike or do those types of things. And there's a personal connection there as well. One, I love the outdoors. I've been skiing since I was 5 years old. My mountain bike, I do all these things. But another reason why I'm connected to estate planning is I lost both my parents within a year of each other when I was in my early 40s. And the last few years of my father's life, he was confined to a wheelchair. And my dad was this personality that had to be on the move, always had to be doing something and going. And seeing him kind of trapped and not able to kind of live the way he wanted to live. And then when I was exposed to NAC and seeing how they can take like a veteran maybe that's lost the ability to walk, in Afghanistan or something like that, to suddenly be able to go out and ski again, or to go mountain bike or river raft, it is life-changing for these folks. And it lets them move from this place where they feel like they've had tremendous loss to being re-engaged in life and inspired. And I just think it's such an amazing organization that has such a big impact. So that's just something I really care about, and we give generously to.
Wonderful. Well, Gene, want to thank you again for taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.